Week 3 had 0 ranked versus ranked matchups. Week 4 has a lot. We'll just start running through these a little bit. Friday night, Wisconsin plays Purdue. Wisconsin favored by 6.5. NC State is at Virginia. NC State favored by 9.5. And Boise State at San Diego State. Boise State favored by 7. Not a whole lot to talk about there, but 3 mildly interesting games if you need something to do on Friday night. Saturday, Oklahoma goes to Cincinnati. Oklahoma 14.5 point favorites. I might talk more about that game later. But by the way, we should mention Oklahoma is rolling right along and putting up just massive numbers against clearly overmatched competition. But yeah, Oklahoma doing a really good job this year so far. Florida State is at Clemson. We talked about there being a lot of ranked on ranked matchups. This is not even one of those. Clemson is like the first team out of the polls. Florida State favored by 2.5. So obviously Vegas thinks this is a lot closer than the number 4 team against an unranked opponent. I'm staying away from this one, like just spoiling the locks here. But Ashton, what do you expect out of this game? This game is in Death Valley after all.
It's Clemson's Super Bowl. Like Clemson has to have this game. I like Florida State. That was clearly a letdown week for them, right? Last week against Boston College. They were clearly already focused onto the Clemson game, which was even coming into the preseason. Like there were 2 games that Florida State really had to have early. And it was LSU, which they got. And now it's that road trip to Clemson. It's going to be electric. It's at noon, which is maybe kind of a bummer. Like it feels like we kind of got robbed. Like it would have been more fun if that's the 7 o'clock kick on ESPN. I mean, the problem is there's so many good games late too. Like someone has to play at noon. This is going to be really fun. Clemson low key has kind of found something on offense a little bit the last couple of weeks. They've put up some nice numbers and Klubnik's looked more comfortable. You want to see more from the receivers, obviously. And yeah, like I'm not betting this. I'm staying a far way away. I'm just completely away from this game. Do not bet on this game. But do watch it. It's going to be an awesome noon kick. A great way to start off your Saturday.
By the way, there is no time on Saturday where you should, there's no window of opportunity to go do something else. There's just bangers all day long. So
yes, from noon until midnight, it is banger after banger, like the whole day. Yep.
Yes. All right. Auburn is at Texas A&M. This is an example of a game that in a normal week we would be paying a lot of attention to, but it just kind of it almost falls by the wayside considering everything else going on. Auburn, 7.5 point underdogs on the road here at A&M. Any chance that we see like Hugh Freeze's first big upset here?
A slight possibility. I think I'd be taking A&M though. Game Jimbo really needs. Jimbo does not need to go 2-2 with losses to Auburn and Miami to start. He does not need that to happen. Auburn, one of those SEC teams that's 3-0. Like there's some sneaky SEC teams that are 3-0 with Missouri and Auburn. So yeah, like it's going to be fun. Watch it if you can. Like maybe it's like a secondary screen, like you have it on your backup screen type deal. But like, again, the noon window has, just so many good games in and of itself that you're right. This one might just get kind of lost in the shuffle.
Yeah. SMU at TCU. TCU favored by 6.5. 2 pretty solid teams this year. I don't know that either one is all that great, but yeah, this would maybe be a secondary screen game in another week, but probably not this week. BYU at Kansas, kind of the same story there. Kansas favored by 9.5. These are the type of games that I probably want to watch like a condensed version or something on Sunday or something like that. But
right.
Yeah. All right. Another banger. UCLA at Utah. Utah favored by 4.5. I really like these teams. Dante Moore doing really good things for UCLA as a true freshman.
Yes.
And now this is a conference game, so Chip Kelly actually cares about it. We'll see. Maybe we have Cam Rising play again. Do you have a strong opinion on this game other than it's like this is my opinion. I don't want to put words in your mouth. I think this is a great game.
Yeah, I think it's a really good game. Did you say we are expecting to see Cam Rising? Because I was
asking. I don't know.
Well, I was listening to Whittingham's presser from earlier today, and he sounded hopeful, but he also said that he was kind of hoping that Rising would have been back any of the previous 3 games.
Yeah.
Like they were expecting him for Florida, which didn't make it sound great, but he did, like, with just some of his language, his verbiage, he kind of threw it in there that you kind of thought that he would be playing. Like you would be surprised if he wasn't. He's been practicing now. We know he's been practicing. I think Rising plays this game. And I don't know about the tight end, Brent Keithy. Like I hope they both play, obviously. UCLA's talented. Chip Kelly has a plan. You mentioned Dante Moore. I mean, fantastic freshman quarterback that's made some really nice throws for them. Yeah, like this is really good game. This one's going to make my top 5 games to watch. This one will be a lot of fun.
Right. Another game out in the Pac-12, Colorado goes to Oregon. Oregon favored by 21.5. That feels about right to me. The bad news coming out of last week's game is Travis Hunter's injured for a while. Kind of got cheap shotted. And we talked about Colorado. They don't have great depth. They got several other good receivers. Not great depth there. I expect Oregon to probably roll in that game, but I am impressed by Colorado. Any more thoughts on that?
Just one. So, like, just to be clear here, so we have the number 11 team in the nation that gets to host the number 22 team in UCLA. That's the Utah UCLA, and that line's Utah by 5, the home team by 5. Now we have the number 10 team in the nation playing the number 19 team in the nation, also at home, kind of the same set of circumstances. That's the home team, which is Oregon, by 21 points is what I'm looking at. Like, you're going to have to make that one make sense for me because, like, I guess we're saying that Colorado's not, like, worthy of being there. Like, I don't know. I don't really know what that one means. Like, you're going to have to help me out with that line.
I'm staying all the way away from that line.
Okay.
Not even coming close to it.
Okay.
Ole Miss plays Alabama at Alabama. Bama favored by 7. I touched on it earlier, but I would expect Jalen Milroe to come back and play in this game. And I don't know, like Lane Kiffin, we know he's going to be extra motivated. Pete Golding, their defensive coordinator, is going to be extra motivated. I don't know what to expect from Alabama at this point. I have no idea. I wouldn't touch this game with a 10-foot pole as far as the line goes. Do you have an expectation?
No. Alabama. Okay, you won't be able to convince me off of things that I've seen this year that Alabama is very good. And Ole Miss is one of those SEC teams that's 3-0. Alabama and LSU have lost games already. Ole Miss has not. They're 3-0. Like, how is Alabama favored by 7? I understand it's at their place. We've seen them lose in their place. 2 weeks ago, we saw that happen. Like, that defense was good for a bit, but they gave up yards. Jackson Dart's playing really, really well for Ole Miss right now. Maybe he's flown under the radar just a little bit. Ole Miss has good quarterback play. Jackson Dart would start right now for Alabama. Like, he's going to be the best quarterback in that game. Like, why is that line 7? That line there is a scary line. That one, I think Ole Miss is the better football team right now. Ole Miss is the better football team. Like, are they more talented? No, not necessarily, but they're playing better right now.
I don't know if their defense is quite as good as we might have thought it could be.
Okay, possibly, but like, what are we basing that off of? Georgia Tech having a little bit of success. Georgia Tech has had a pretty decent offense. Haynes King's not been terrible for Georgia Tech. Like, Ole Miss has not been. They've been above average. They've been better than what we thought on offense for sure. And you're right. They'll give up a few points here and there. Part of that's just the Kiffin system. Like if you're a Kiffin coached team, like that's kind of how you are. Like, you're going to give up some points, but you're going to try to score more. So, yeah, interesting game, fantastic game. I think the atmosphere will be electric. The line is an interesting one. We'll just say that.
Sure. Okay, another ranked matchup that probably won't get as much attention as it should this week is Oregon State at Washington State. Oregon State favored by 2.5. The main thing I want to hear coming out of this game is that the Big 12 is so impressed with both of these schools that they want to just add them next year. But these are two really good. These are two really good teams this year, and we need to stop talking about conference realignment and just talk about this season. But yeah, like, Oregon State is really impressive.
Do we know where they're going, Oregon State and Washington State? Because currently everyone else from the Pac-12 who is splitting up has a home. Like, everyone else has a home, but not these two. These are the two that don't. and we know nothing. And like, these are good football teams, top 25. I mean, these are ranked football teams. This is going to be on Fox at 7 o'clock, primetime slot. Like, it's baffling to me how they don't have a home right now. Like that's crazy. I agree with you 100%. Oregon State's a good football team. I mean, not to take away from Washington State at all, but they are kind of the surprise here. We all thought Oregon State was going to be really good coming into the year. DJU has looked excellent, by the way. Probably just fitting in. He seems to be gelling nicely. With Jonathan Smith there. I have nothing really for you here. I think that line is suspiciously low. Oregon State only favored by 2.5, or I have it at 3. But this is in Pullman, Washington. Crazy things happen there. I've heard it's kind of a hard place to get to. It's not a fun place to play. It'll certainly be an entertaining game. One that I will be watching in the 7 o'clock window. There's a lot of good games at 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
So it's going to have to, it's going to be a multiple screen day. Like that's all, that's really what it comes down to. That's just going to be the truth of it. Multiple screen day for me. I'll have games on a couple of screens, hopefully at least 2, maybe more. It's going to be necessary too. Like, there's just too many good games.
For those of you out there that act like you care about these schools and you want them to end up in a conference that matters.
Yeah.
Tune in. Like, even during commercials of the actual game you want to watch, just find a way to watch this game in some way. Like, they see those numbers, and that, I think that's the whole reason they're not going to the Big 12 is because of the TV executives. They run everything now anyway. So anyway, let's move on. Big rivalry, actually. Arkansas at LSU. LSU favored by 17.5. Vastly different week 3s, but we'll see how this one turns out. I don't have any strong opinions either way as far as the spread goes. I think LSU is pretty clearly the better team here. Arkansas has clearly downgraded an offensive coordinator from last year, and I'm not sure what to expect as far as the spread goes. Any thoughts from you?
No, not really. I agree on the downgrade on offensive coordinator for Arkansas. And I do think it's a little unfair to 2 players on Arkansas, KJ Jefferson, who is an outstanding quarterback and does not get the love that he deserves, and Rocket Sanders, who is, hopefully he'll be good to go in this game. Arkansas has some good talent, but they do not have a good offensive line. They are not blocking well. Arkansas is not pass blocking at all,
which is surprising.
Right. Sam Pittman is an offensive line coach. Like, he's the head coach there. You figure that's the one thing that they would do well. And they gave up a lot of sacks against BYU last week, especially late in the game. It's surprising to see Arkansas there. I will say they can make things a lot better if they go and beat LSU in Baton Rouge, also night game in Baton Rouge. That's going to be hard to do. But you want to talk about a change in momentum and a change in what we're talking about with Arkansas. You go on the road and win this game, it's a whole different conversation come Sunday. You know what I'm saying? Like momentum is only as good as the next 7 days. You know what I'm saying? Until the next game that you play, then suddenly you don't have it anymore if you lose. So the LSU needs this game. They need the good vibes to continue. Arkansas could really use an upset here. That would be fantastic for them. Right.
Okay, Iowa is at Penn State, another ranked matchup Saturday night. Penn State favored by 14.5. Anytime I hear this matchup, I'm reminded of maybe the best rant I've ever heard by you 2 years ago from this game. If you want to find that, go back on our Instagram and see if you can find it. But anyway, this year, in 2023, feels like Penn State is pretty clearly the better team. Drew Aller has done some pretty good things for them. Wasn't spectacular last week against Illinois. Right. Iowa also has a good defense, like Illinois, maybe even better. Any strong opinions from you on this game other than you? I assume we expect the team with the actual offense to win here.
If this game's at 7:30 p.m., I think it's the whiteout game for Penn State.
Yeah.
This will be the whiteout game at Beaver Stadium. This game's on CBS.
Mm-hmm.
This game's going to kick off, and we're going to hear the drums, do, 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 do. It's not going to work for me. I'm not good with that. I'm not good with that. You talked about the TV executives controlling everything. Well, they ruined this one. They did not get this one right. They have to change that music. That's all there is to it. That music does not go with a night game in Happy Valley. It does not. You will never convince me of that. So Yeah, I know I'm just eventually probably just going to have to accept it because again, they have all the power and us, us fans, we have nothing. Like our state literally does not matter here. Yeah, I don't have much else here for you. I also agree. Penn State's the better football team. Penn State has an offense that's functional, probably even above average. We need to see Penn State come out and win. If we're going to take Penn State seriously as a competitor to Michigan and Ohio State in the Big Ten East, they need to come out and beat Iowa, and they need to beat them by multiple scores. Like we want to see you be good. You need to be good against Iowa, and I think they will. I think Penn State will be good against Iowa. So yeah, I think the 14.5 number is about right. I like 2 touchdowns feels about right in this game. Yeah, it's not going to be in one of my locks. I don't have a strong lean either way. The over under is at 40, which is a little bit low, but we are talking about Iowa, who does have a fantastic defense here and is probably not going to score many points themselves. So yeah, it's a good game and a good watch. Unfortunate about the TV network situation though. I'm not used to that yet.
Speaking of TV, it's a ranked on ranked matchup, and it might be the third or fourth most interesting matchup in the evening. Like,
right.
Just crazy. What a week, man! I love it. I can't wait. Mississippi State is at South Carolina. South Carolina favored by 5.5.
Yep.
Stay away from this one.
Yeah.
But yeah, might be worth a watch when you have time. But again, it's in that evening slot. Okay, probably the biggest game of the day. Ohio State goes to Notre Dame. Ohio State favored by 3.5. That line has fluctuated a little bit. Ohio State before this last week was like a 7.5 point favorite. That came down to 2.5 at one point. Now it's at 3.5 is the latest I saw. Might still differ from place to place, but it's around there. I have my thoughts. I've obviously, as a Notre Dame fan, I put a lot of thought into this game. What are your thoughts as kind of the neutral observer?
Okay, so this game we had this game a year ago, right? And it was Notre Dame had to go to Ohio State that year, and I don't think much has changed really for me. Ohio State's the more talented football team. Ohio State is the more talented football team, but Notre Dame has an advantage clearly on the offensive line. I think Notre Dame can push Ohio State around because I don't think Ohio State is very tough. Like it's kind of been the same things for me, like the past 2 years now. And I hate to sound like a broken record, but like when's the last big game that Ohio State won? Like are we going to go to the Utah game in the Rose Bowl? Like
Penn State last year was
me
pretty big.
Penn State was a good one if you want to go with that one, but they have not been great in some of these standalone matchups. They haven't been, and this will be a night game. Here's the thing. Here's my concern: is Notre Dame going to sell all of their tickets to Ohio State fans? Like, is this going to be like what Georgia did, where it's a 50-50 split, and there's as many Georgia fans as Notre Dame fans there?
It's not going to be that bad. There will be Ohio State fans there. It's not going to be. There's been several games like that over the decades. Like it seems like there's one like that Georgia game.
Yeah,
there's one of those every 10 years. People still talk about Nebraska in 2000 coming to Notre Dame and taking over the stadium. Ohio is a neighboring state. I don't believe that Ohio State fans view that as like almost a once in a lifetime type of trip the way a lot of Georgia fans did. Like how often are Georgia fans going to go up to South Bend, Indiana and watch a football game at Notre Dame Stadium?
Right.
Ohio State fans are going to view it that way. For one thing, Ohio State fans tend to view nothing outside of the state of Ohio as anywhere close to as fun as just going to their own stadium. So sorry, that's a subtle shot. I might view this slightly different than you. I actually might give Ohio State's defensive line a bit of an edge over Notre Dame's offensive line. I think their front seven is really good. Their defense, to me, to my untrained eye, is clearly a step above where they were last year. The secondary, I think Sam Hartman can pick on it a little bit. They probably have a better secondary than they did the last 2-3 years. It's still not like an elite secondary like we got used to from Ohio State for a little bit there in the mid 2010s.
Right.
But I like their front seven, defensive line especially, solid linebackers. if you're looking at the other side of the ball, yeah, Kyle McCord. Now, I know they put up over 60 against Western Kentucky last week, and that was actually pretty impressive. Like, if you're putting up that many points against a Division I school, an FBS program, I don't really care if it's Western Kentucky or who you're playing. That's at least some level of impressive.
Sure.
I don't know that as a Notre Dame fan, I think I'm almost more scared of Ohio State's defense than their offense. Okay. And I know that sounds so counter whatever to what we've come to expect from Ohio State. And I will say they have really good skill position talent. But obviously we know about the receivers, Marvin Harrison Jr.,
right.
Mecca Buka, Fleming. The running backs are good. They got 3 really good running backs. They got a really good tight end. I don't know that I really think their quarterback or their tackles are all that good.
Okay, so hang on. If you were making this line, then if you were making this line right now, you would make it at what? So I'm showing it at 3.5. I've seen a couple of other numbers out there, but it was at 8 a week ago. Like I saw an 8 number just a little over 1 week ago, and it's since down to 3.
Yeah.
Like, what do you think? Is that about right? Is that what you're tracking with too?
I'm definitely not touching this line, partially because I'm a Notre Dame fan, but I've made Notre Dame a lock in my locks before.
Yeah.
I might say it's closer to a pick 'em, but we are talking about like Ohio State clearly has the advantage at receiver. Running back is whatever. Running back is clearly an argument one way or another. Like, that's not clear cut one way or another.
Right.
Quarterback clearly advantage Notre Dame.
Yes, no doubt.
But I think Ohio State is probably better than Notre Dame on the defensive line. Roughly equivalent, maybe better at linebacker. I actually think Notre Dame might be better in the secondary. But if you have a better defensive line and receivers, like, those are 2 pretty important positions.
Fair.
Roughly as important as quarterback. Like not individually, but if you combine quarterback and receiver together, that might be about as important as the quarterback. I don't know. Maybe. I could see this game going either way, put it that way. Like, there's call to pick 'em for me. The game's at Notre Dame.
Yeah.
And I know that's 3.5 points different than the line, which often is a good place to bet. But I could so easily see Ohio State winning this game by a touchdown. Yeah. What do you think? Well, who's going to win this game, Ashton?
I'm not sure. I do think that Notre Dame has looked very, very impressive through four weeks now with them. They've been excellent. That offense has clicked in ways that offense was not very good last year.
Yeah.
That Ohio State Notre Dame was a close game last year on the road. That was in the Horseshoe with Tommy Rees as the coordinator and Tyler Buckner as the quarterback. That was a close football game into the fourth quarter. There's no doubt that Hartman's been a significant upgrade for them. I mean, that's without question. They will have the quarterback advantage in this game. Again, home game now to them. It's a very close game. I'm not going to decide either way. If I had to bet, I would be betting Notre Dame to cover. I think the 3.5 would, but outright, I'm not sure. I'm with you. Pick'em seems about right. If Notre Dame wins this football game, Notre Dame could be a playoff team. Like, it's that much of a springboard for them. The rest, Notre Dame could beat Clemson. Clemson is showing some flaws now. Notre Dame could beat them. I think Notre Dame could beat USC. So, yeah, like, the big one is Ohio State. Notre Dame needs to beat Ohio State. Like, that's a statement for them. It would be the biggest. It would be huge for just for the whole program, the coaching staff, the program, the momentum I think that would come with that would just be a wave that would sweep them through the majority of this season. So, must watch TV. This is the game of the week. We have a huge week with 6 ranked versus ranked matchups. Count them, 6. That's a huge number. 6 matchups that are ranked unranked. This one is unquestionably the best. It's an elite matchup. Yeah, these could be 2 playoff teams. Like, it's that level of talent's going to be out there. It's on NBC, which feels a little bit weird for me because I'm not a Notre Dame fan. I'm not used to watching NBC games. I pay attention to that. I care about who's calling the games that I'm watching. That bothers me, like when I don't have a group of announcers that I like.
You'll recognize these announcers.
Sure. It's Tirico, right? Like it's going to be Tirico and someone else.
I think Noah Eagle and the color guy. Okay. Maybe Todd Blackledge. Is he the one who went from ESPN to NBC?
Okay. Gotcha.
I want to say so.
Yeah, no, you're right. That's fair. That's not going to be too bad. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this though. I mean,
yeah,
dude, this weekend, like I already have my Saturday planned out. Like I know what I'm going to be doing. Yeah, it's appointment television for me all day Saturday. Yeah,
absolutely. I've been watching Notre Dame for over 15 years. I think I would view this as the biggest win since I started watching them in program history. Like I think it's that big. That might be hyperbolic, but you almost can't overstate how big it would be. They got a commitment this morning from a top 100 quarterback from Mississippi in the class of 2025, Deuce Knight. There's going to be a lot of recruits at this game. Yeah, there's just a lot on the line here for Notre Dame for sure. All right, Texas goes to Baylor. Texas favored by 14.5. Baylor not exactly lighting the world on fire so far this season. However, we've seen them beat Texas before. Yes. Any reason to think they could do it again?
I mean, Texas, they so clearly played down to their competition last week. We didn't talk about it enough. That game was 10-10 midway through the fourth quarter. Texas, Wyoming. Yeah, they could. This is on the road in Waco. Like Baylor has knocked off big opponents in Waco before. So yeah, that's another game at 7:30. Like don't miss it. If Texas Baylor gets close, you need to tune into that game too. Like that's going to be another one that you're going to have on your secondary screen there. So yeah, don't let that one fly under the radar. I think that would just be my advice right now.
Yeah. All right, North Carolina goes to Pitt. North Carolina favored by 7.5. I think this game probably looked a little bigger at the beginning of the season before Pitt has now, not exactly been lighting the world on fire. But yeah, North Carolina, a chance here to kind of put a stranglehold on that second or third place spot in their conference, just as far as how we view the teams in the ACC. Evening, if we get later into the evening, we have Cal at Washington. Washington favored by 21.5. Another chance to watch Washington. We might all be exhausted from just a ridiculous 7:00 slate, but at least,
fair point.
USC is at Arizona State, also that late slot. USC favored by 34.5. Touched on it earlier, but Arizona State has serious injury problems. Drew Pine played a lot of last week's game when they got shut out by Fresno State and was terrible. I would like to think that Arizona State can get things together, but it's not going to be this year. So,
okay.
Any games that I missed that we should mention?
No, I do just think that go back over this and enjoy Saturdays like this. This is probably going to be the best Saturday so far, or definitely so far, probably in the regular season. Like there may be one that's in like late October that often happens. And there's obviously rivalry weekend at the end at Thanksgiving. That's always really good too. But this one's going to be as good as any of them going in there with 6 ranked versus ranked matchups. That's fantastic, man. That's just a lot of depth too. Just, it starts early and it goes until late. Just block out, just do yourself a favor. It's only 12 hours. It's from noon till midnight. Like you've got time. It sounds terrible, right? Order some wings in for supper and just make a day of it. It's going to be awesome. I'm really looking forward to it.